Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show. Coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. Good to have you guys here joining me today, all the way from the Robservatory. Writer, director, producer, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
Well, hello there. It's Friday. Wow, another week gone. And I'm seeing Mortal Kombat and The Sheep Detectives today, but you have already seen them.
I have. We're going to talk about those movies today. You know, it's funny. I was just saying to Ann this morning, I could not believe it was, like, I swear to God, yesterday just felt like Monday. It felt like the week just started. I don't know why. For some reason, this week has just totally flown by. And guys, we are so glad that you are here to join us on this final day of the week as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming. We're awfully glad that you guys have decided to join us here today. Now, before we get started and all the stories that we have going on, we do have a lot of stuff that we need to cover. I want to do a little bit of housekeeping, remind you guys that the next leg of the movie meetup tour continues in just a couple of weeks at the end of May. We are starting the next leg. And now that the winter is over, we're going to be getting back in the van and heading back out on the road. And here's the next 4 stops for the movie meetup. First of all, on Sunday, May 24th, we're going to be in Columbus, Ohio at the Marcus Crosswood Cinema for the 6:30 p.m. screening of Mandalorian and Grogu. Then a couple of days later, we're going to be in the New York City area at the AMC Roosevelt 8. Again, that's on Tuesday, May the 26th for a 7:20 p.m. screening of The Mandalorian and Grogu. The very next night, The Mandalorian goodness continues as we're going to be in the Boston area on Wednesday, May 27th at the AMC Braintree 10 for the 7:15 screening of Mandalorian. And then going up to the Great White North, back to the North that remembers, we're going to be in Toronto, Ontario at the Cineplex Cinemas Queensway and VIP on Sunday, May the 31st for The Mandalorian and Grogu. Now, we don't have a showtime yet for that meetup because they don't have any tickets available yet. They don't schedule that far out. So we will let you guys know in the Toronto area when we're actually going to have the actual time, but it will be on Sunday, May the 31st. Now, the way the movie meetups work is really simple. We don't charge anything for it. If you want to come and hang out and watch the same movie we are, just go to the movie theater's website, buy yourself a ticket for that showtime, and me and a bunch of other probably John Campea Show viewers are going to be in the same movie, and we'll watch it together. And then afterwards, I'm going to hang out in front of the theater for like an hour or so to just say hi, take some pictures, all that kind of stuff. Now, I already know a couple of the theaters are sold out. Like I know the New York one is sold out and stuff like that. But if you still want to come to the meetup part, feel free to come and join us after the movie is over in front of whatever theater there is there to say hi and take pictures and stuff like that. And we will look forward to seeing you guys out there on the road at the movie meetup tour. All right, guys. With that down, let's get things started here, shall we? And we're going to start off with this. Mortal Kombat 2 is now out and in theaters. And Rob, you know what I thought about the last one. It was a bag of shite. The last one, high hopes for the last one, man. They had some wicked trailers for that first one. I think it was in 2021.
Yeah, man.
That it came out. And that movie was just not good.
Yeah,
but
no.
We've heard that this one may be an improvement. The first reactions were okay. The full reviews are now out, and they're definitely better than the first movie's reviews were. Nobody's calling this thing a masterpiece, but they're definitely better. So I went off to go see Mortal Kombat last night, and I didn't add a theater reaction for it. So I'll start this off simply by telling you what I said in my out of the theater reaction. There are a lot of movies that claim to just be dumb fun, right? But a lot of times they're not. They're just dumb. You can say you were going for dumb fun, but if your action isn't thrilling and if your jokes aren't funny and your one-liners aren't memorable, then you're not a dumb fun movie. You're just a dumb movie. And that happens a lot. And I get really tired, Rob, of hearing people make excuses for those movies. Well, it's just dumb fun. No. It was just dumb. Mortal Kombat 2 is dumb fun. It's dumb fun because it's got both. It's really dumb, but it's quite fun all at the same time. And you listen, the story is super simplistic. And, somebody asked me almost jokingly, but like, if I go to see Mortal Kombat 2 without seeing Mortal Kombat 1, am I going to be lost? No, you really won't be. You won't be lost at all. You know why? Because you won't care. You won't care other than, why is that good looking girl kicking that guy in the face? That's all you need to know about. That's really all there is. Story, super simplistic, super basic, kind of ignores a few things from the first movie, and that's perfectly okay. As a matter of fact, I might even say that's a good thing. As we go over and take a look, actually, the last Mortal Kombat movie had a 55%. This one's got a significant improvement, it's a 68%, but I want you to take a notice of something here. The popcorn meter, which is the audience scores, the audience is like me. They're coming out going, yeah, this is not cinema. But it was pretty fun, and it's got like a 90% on there. Again, the other thing I said coming out of my out of theater reaction was, is this going to be in my top 10 movies of the year? No, absolutely not. Am I going to rush back out to go see this movie again? Honestly, probably not. But the most important question is, while I was sitting there in that seat, was I having a good time? And you know what? Gosh darn it, I was. I was having fun. You know why? Because the martial arts action was really good. There were a few moments that the martial arts action got a little cartoony, and at those parts I kind of rolled my eyes. But for the most part, it was really cool fight choreography. The effects were not ILM level, but they were right. The effects were right for the movie, if you know what I mean when I say that. And it was legitimately funny. Like, Kano shows back up, and if you're like, wait a minute, didn't Kano die in the last one? Don't worry about it. Kano is hilarious. Like, he's not going to be everybody's sense of humor, and maybe it's because I have a grade 12 juvenile sense of humor, but almost everything Kano said in the movie, I laughed at. Johnny Cage, Carl Urban, was funny. Like, he was like really funny, and all the pop cultural references that he uses in it were really good. Did it feel like grand in scope and epic like Lord of the Rings? No, absolutely not. It felt like a tiny little sound stage where two people were fighting and claiming they're fighting for the fate of the universe. But hey, it still really worked. The weapons were great. There's a lot of little inside stuff that if you're familiar with the games are going to tickle your fancy. And like Rob, again, I am not going to say that this is like top level stuff. I'm not going to say this is a great motion picture. I'm not going to say this is one we're going to be talking about for a long time. We're probably not. But if you're just looking to go to the movie theater, sit down with a bucket of popcorn in your lap and a soda and a couple of friends and just to have some fun and laugh and see some good fights, this is on the menu. This is one of those things. I had a good time with it. Now you're going to go see it tonight, right?
In IMAX at 4 p.m. Now I would expect, with the loud sounds and the gigantic screen, that we are going to have a great time.
What do you expect? Like going into it, because I think you didn't think much more about the original film than I did.
No.
So what are your expectations going into this one?
Well, I always talk about this thing I call watching movies at scale. So when I go see a movie, like I'm always talking about how much I love the movie Stone Cold that stars Brian Bosworth. And that movie knows exactly what it is. And you get an Oscar caliber performance from Lance Henriksen, but it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. So you can have great ridiculousness or not so great ridiculousness. So I'm expecting great ridiculousness from this movie. I'm expecting, look, I want to see the kind of Big Trouble in Little China characters, which some of them kind of look like, in great fights with some great gore and some great techno or EDM music that's pulsating through those speakers. I want to be shook by the bass, and I want to see people getting wrecked. I want to see fools getting wrecked. That's what I want.
You're going to be happy to hear this. Yeah, I love that you just made a Big Trouble in Little China comparison or thought. Without giving any context so it won't spoil anything, there's a pretty awesome Big Trouble in Little China reference in this movie.
That's, you know what?
That you're gonna light up like a Christmas tree. I think when you get in there to it. I mean, yeah, and listen, I see a bunch of people writing in the live chat asking, what do we need for this thing. Like, how do we got Derek here is asking, how successful do we need this one to be in order to get a third film? I'm not really sure. I haven't looked into the nitty gritty nuts and bolts about what the production budget was, what the marketing budget was, how much they spent on it, all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure, but listen, I never thought that we would get a second movie. Like after that first one, and it didn't do great, and it was a terrible film. I was honestly really shocked to hear that they were going to do another Mortal Kombat. But you know what? After watching this one, I'm glad that they did. This is what the first film should have been. It seems like they figured out a lot of the things they did wrong in that first one. They made some course corrections. And what can you say, guys? They made the second one a better movie, which is all you can really ask for. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Have you had a chance to see Mortal Kombat 2 yet? If so, what did you think about it? If not, are you planning on going to see it? Listen, I'll tell you right now, the movie's not going to be for everybody. It's just not. But if you're kind of like me, I think you're going to go in and have a pretty fun time. Anyway, whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, every once in a while we get a movie that is so much better than what its ad campaign made it out to look like. It really stuns us. Edge of Tomorrow, All You Need Is Kill, Live, Die, Repeat, Sunshine of the Forever Neverland, or whatever title they eventually ended up with for this movie, was one such movie. Edge of Tomorrow is truly one of the worst marketing campaigns for a film in history because they made the movie look like some psychedelic philosophical journey with this terrible song. I don't know if you remember that song, Rob, that was in the trailer.
Oh, yeah.
This is not the end. What? I mean, honestly, it didn't look like anything I even wanted to see. It looked like something not a lot of people wanted to see. And sure enough, opening weekend came and not a lot of people went to go see it because it looked terrible, but the movie was awesome.
Awesome.
It was awesome. And it started to get some legs, but it was a little too late. So it only made, I think, something in the $300 million range. I can't remember. But the point is, ever since that first one came out and how great it was, there's been a lot of talk about them possibly doing another one. As a matter of fact, DJ Khaled, another one. So I hate myself for doing that. Anyway, so last week, a report came out that they were moving forward with another one. I think it was Daniel RPK who put out a report that they were going to be moving forward with another one now. Well, according now to a news story coming out, that ain't happening. As this news story, this one is coming to us from MovieWeb, who are writing that Tom Cruise sci-fi actioneer 12 years in, we're talking about Edge of Tomorrow, getting a disappointing update. And I'll just scooch down to the main part. It says this, according to Collider, the sequel to Edge of Tomorrow is not currently being developed, shutting down previous reports about the film preparing to begin production before the end of 2026. Warner Brothers still intends to produce the film at some point, but a return to the franchise, which stars Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt, is not actively being explored at the moment. Director Doug Liman was also expected to return along with the lead stars. However, concrete milestone in development has not been made, despite rumors. I remember, God, Rob, what year was it that Mary Poppins came out? Not the original, the one with Emily Blunt.
Mary Poppins Returns.
Yeah, no, like the one with Lin-Manuel Miranda and Emily Blunt. I want to say
that's Mary
it was
Poppins
the same
Returns.
year Aquaman came out. It was the same year Jason Momoa's first Aquaman movie came out.
Maybe
2018. That's what some people in the live chat are saying. Some people in the live chat are saying 2018. So here was the I don't know if you guys had heard this story before, but what happened was apparently Tom Cruise and Doug Liman were all set and ready to do a sequel. And they got on the phone with Emily Blunt and they're like, okay, we're ready to, this is like 2016. We're ready to do a sequel. We're ready to go. and we're going to film in this period of time. But Emily Blunt had literally, I think the way the story goes was like just 48 hours earlier, had signed the contract to do Mary Poppins that was going to be shooting at the same time that Doug Liman and Tom Cruise wanted to do an Edge of Tomorrow 2. And she was like, I want to do this so bad, but I can't. Like, I just made a commitment in that period of time, and they have just never gotten back around. They've just never gotten around to getting the gang back together again to take another run at it. And again, some hopes got raised last week when that report came out saying they're going to shoot by the end of the year. And first of all, any of us who keep up to date on what's going on probably knew that that sounded suspicious, because we know Tom Cruise's schedule right now is incredibly packed. So that didn't seem viable. It would have been really surprising if it had turned out to be true. But apparently now that report's been shot down, and they're saying that nope, no Edge of Tomorrow 2 for you. So yeah. Anyway, Rob, some movies, they have a ticking clock for if you don't get a sequel done by a certain time, there's no point in doing it. I think Edge of Tomorrow is one that can be made 15 years later, 20 years later. The only catch is Tom Cruise is approaching 70. And he's still in remarkable shape. I mean, don't get me wrong, but there is a bit of a clock on that. And I think, despite all my years of optimism that at some point they're going to get this done, I don't think we're ever going to get an Edge of Tomorrow 2. I mean, it might get rebooted at some point, but I'm starting to doubt that we're actually ever going to get this thing. Rob, you heard this story. What's your takeaway of it? Do you think we're ever going to get one? Are you surprised that the rumor that they're about to start production has been shot down? What do you think of this?
Well, first of all, I think this whole property is really interesting. Like, we did get another adaptation of this. It's based originally on a manga.
Yeah, All You Need Is Kill.
All You Need Is Kill. They released last year a anime adaptation of the story under the title All You Need Is Kill. So, I thought one of the great botched. I mean, I have a steelbook from Japan of the movie, the Tom Cruise movie, under the title All You Need Is Kill. And I really think that was a mistake to not release it under that title and make it called Edge of Tomorrow, because what does that even mean? I think that this was an example where the studio, at least the studio marketing department, was completely adrift. They had no idea how to market this movie, when the obvious answer is this is the ultimate gamer movie ever made. It's about playing a level, learning how to beat the level and respawning and going in and passing the level and getting to the next level. And the audience that this movie was made for was the very audience that made video games so incredibly popular. And they apparently never figured that one out. So people still think this movie is either called Live, Die, Repeat, which was the tagline, or Edge of Tomorrow. And this is as you pointed out, one of the great science fiction films of the 21st century. It's a fantastic movie that is brilliantly acted, brilliantly directed, and Tom Cruise is fantastic in it. And I just don't understand. I know it didn't have the box office. It didn't have the box office that they'd wanted, but clearly in ancillary markets, whether it's on streaming, cable, physical media, this movie was more of a hit. And I would have thought that they would have figured out a way to do another version of it. Now, they could. I mean, they can always go back and do Tom Cruise doesn't necessarily have to be in the mech suit. He could be leading troops or something. I think it's just silly.
He could kind of take Brendan Gleeson's role from the first one.
Yeah, and you could bring in like Tom Cruise Maverick, or Tom Cruise Maverick, Top Gun Maverick. You could play it along those lines, because this movie is beloved. Yeah. I don't know anybody who doesn't like this movie. And it's still, obviously, they made an animated movie adapting it last year, so it's still a very viable proposition. So I would love to see a sequel to this. I don't know why there isn't one. I think this is probably one of Tom Cruise, other than movies like Jerry Maguire, or Risky Business, this is probably one of the Tom Cruise movies people love the most.
Yeah, despite the fact that, when it was in theaters, it didn't have a ton of people that went to go see it. But I agree. Like, I don't listen. I'm sure there are people out there who don't like the movie, and that's fine. But like you, I don't personally know anybody that didn't like this movie.
Me neither.
But again, when you look back at how they botched the marketing on this thing, like right from first of all, right, just the title alone was terrible. It sounded like a daytime soap opera title, The Edge of Tomorrow.
What does that have to do with the film?
And why they just didn't keep All You Need Is Kill. It is a memorable, stick in your head,
intriguing. You're like, what does that mean?
Title that already has a little bit of IP recognition. And then they put out the horrible trailers. And then when it went to home video, the bad decisions continued, because you remember for a little while, they actually changed the name of the movie to Live, Die, Repeat, which was the tagline of the movie. And then suddenly they made it the title of the movie. And then they backtracked off that and renamed it back to Edge of Tomorrow. I mean, this was a Keystone Cops, Benny Hill kind of like, it was just such a good movie. I hope at some point someday we get around to getting another one. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Are you disappointed that those reports we heard are apparently not true, that we're not about to get an Edge of Tomorrow sequel? I really hope we do someday, but I'll be honest with you, I'm getting to the point now that I've kind of given up hope on it. Although I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see this thing. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, as I mentioned earlier, I went to go see Mortal Kombat 2 last night and had a good time. But then I was also going to see another film last night, a movie that they first previewed for us at CinemaCon last year and didn't look interesting to me. The trailers have not looked interesting to me, and I was not planning on going to see The Sheep Detectives. But the ultimate veto power in the universe, my wife Anne, said she did want to go see it. And so go to see it we did. So I went off to go watch, like I said, I watched Mortal Kombat. 3 hours later, I went back into theaters to go see Sheep Detectives. And guys, I am so glad I did. This is, right now, my second favorite year of the movies. This is my second favorite movie of the year. And their top two are both from Amazon. Project Hail Mary is my first. This is now my second favorite movie of the year. This movie is so warm. It's so charming. It's so delightful. It's so witty and funny and sweet. And this is the thing I think a lot of people missed on in talking with their reviews. It is a legitimately good murder mystery movie. Like just on its own level, it's a pretty damn solid murder mystery movie where when it gets to the end, you're like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming, but all the clues were there. So I'm sure some people saw the ending coming a little bit, but I think a lot of us didn't. It's a legitimately good murder mystery movie, populated with these incredible voice performances. I think Julie Louis-Dreyfus is the main sheep. She plays Lily. And then you got Chris O'Dowd is marvelous in it. You've got Brent Goldstein, who does the voices of the two twins. So he does both voices for the twin characters. Hugh Jackman is just wonderful in it. And then all the rest of the human cast. Oh, and it was killing me, Rob. It was killing me. There's a character in the movie who plays the guy who owns the butcher shop in town. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, who the hell is that guy? He's not the guy from Downton Abbey, but who is he? And it took me half the movie to figure out. He's the guy, I think his name was Varys from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
The bald guy who had his little birds. Yeah. He's the owner of the butcher shop in the movie. Wonderful. All the human actors were great. And at least, God, I want to say
does he have hair? Conleth Hill, the actor?
He does have hair in it. And I got to say, at least minimum 4 times in this movie, you could audibly hear a whole bunch of people sobbing in the theater. Like just outright sobbing. At least 4 different times. And it could have been 5 or 6. And hell, I don't cry in movies except for extreme demonstrations of loyalty and friendship. That stuff always gets to me. But there's something that happens near the end of the movie that even I felt my diaphragm shaking a little bit, like even I was starting to get a little bit emotional. Again, listen, the premise of the movie is a very, very simple one on its surface. Hugh Jackman plays a shepherd who just loves his life. He lives in an Airstream trailer in the meadow that he owns, and he has these sheep, and he loves his sheep more than he loves the people of the local town. And you find out he's got a daughter that he's been trying to connect with, through writing letters. And every night, as this picture kind of exhibits, every night as the sun's starting to go down, he pulls out a book, a murder mystery book, and he reads murder mysteries to the sheep. And the sheep just love it, right? So he reads murder mysteries. But then, of course, as the trailers led on, Hugh Jackman gets murdered. And it's up to the sheep to discover who did it. And Rob, you know how Scream, the original Scream, was about taking the horror movies as a genre, breaking down their normal, regular tropes, and then the movie was an exploration of how all those tropes basically play out in horror movies. Another movie that does that great is Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, which I think is even better than Scream. But that's what Sheep Detectives is. It takes now the whole idea of murder mysteries, and it breaks down all the general tropes of murder mysteries and explores all those tropes. Oh, by the way, Bryan Cranston is the voice of one of the animals. I think his name is Sebastian in it. I think that's his name. Bryan Cranston is so good in this. Anyway, so it breaks down all the murder mystery tropes and then plays them out in the movie. And it's just brilliantly done. And Rob, I always say that movies are experiential events, right? And their movies are meant to make us feel something, and different movies are designed to make us feel different things. Some want to make us feel thrills. Some want us to feel tension. Some want us to feel joy. Some want us to make us feel fear. But the measure of a movie is how much does it make you feel? And I'll tell you what, watching The Sheep Detectives, my heart was on full the whole time. It took me about 10 or 15 minutes to warm up to the movie because the movie starts and, I was kind of pessimistic going into it and the first 10 or 15 minutes or so, but as it starts to really become clear what it is, it just charmed me. It won me over, and there's laughs, and there's a legitimately good murder mystery, and there's tears. And listen, I am not going to have any delusions of grandeur about The Sheep Detectives. I think this movie's going to flop. I don't think anybody's going to go see it because I think a lot of people were like me, mistakenly thinking this doesn't look very interesting. Because again, if it wasn't for Ann, I wouldn't have gone see it. So I don't think anybody's going to see this movie. I think it's going to flop. But guys, I implore you, go to see this movie. Go see it. And walk out with your heart in a better place than it was. I adored it. It's got very good, I can't remember exactly what it has. Oh yeah, look at that. It's got a 95% right now. Not all the critics think it's as good as I think it is, but almost everybody agrees this is a good movie. It's got 95% right now. I'm predicting that when the tomato meter comes out, when the audience ratings comes out, I'm predicting this thing's going to be over 95%. Because all film is subjective, Rob. There are people who don't like The Godfather. There are people who don't like Star Wars, and there are going to be people that don't like The Sheep Detectives. But I'm thinking almost everybody's going to be won over by this movie. I'm predicting an audience score of over 95%. I just think it's a really special film. Like, how have you been feeling about it? Because, you saw the presentation last year, this year's presentation. What's your expectations been going in?
Well, this movie is my kind of movie. I mean, anthropomorphized animals always get me. Like Babe, Pig in the City, and the first Babe are favorites of mine. And when I saw this, it was when I felt that the first CinemaCon presentation, they were kind of hiding what this movie was. But like, it wasn't like the talking animals were like maybe it was just in the heads of the human characters. But having seen more about this and read more about this, because I was intrigued by it, it's based on a novel. And the fact that Craig Mazin wrote this movie, Craig Mazin of Chernobyl fame, Craig Mazin of Last of Us fame, that he took it upon himself to script this film. And he went to Princeton. There had to be something in this. There had to be something in this property that he saw and wanted to bring to the screen. And he's obviously, as a writer and as a creator, he's a masterful craftsperson. And so I have to say, I'm much more excited to see this movie than you probably were. I'm going to see Mortal Kombat at 4 in IMAX, but then afterwards we're going to see this. Different theater though, but both at the Irvine Spectrum. I cannot wait, John. I cannot wait.
I think you're really going to like it. Oh, and by the way, I was mentioning some of the voices. Patrick Stewart. Yeah. I didn't realize going into that Patrick Stewart was one of the Patrick Stewart. His character is so funny. I am just completely won over by this movie. I am definitely going to go see it 2 or 3 more times. And I highlight, if you're just looking for explosions in action, obviously this is not the movie for you. But man, if you just want to see a really good movie that's going to make you feel good, I think this is it. Go see Sheep Detectives, guys. Whatever you guys think about all that, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Now, of course, the dominant piece of news in the world of entertainment over the past, I guess we're getting close to like 5-6 months, has been that Paramount and its impending, probably taking over of Warner Brothers. Now, there are people trying to stop it. There's lawsuits going on. States' attorney generals are looking at maybe stepping in to stop it. And there's been an open letter, a petition, if you will. And you guys know how I feel about petitions. But a petition, if you will, that has over 4,000 signatures of some very high-profile actors, directors, producers, all saying, we don't think this thing should go through. Well, one of the guys who's near the tip of the spear on that is Mark Ruffalo. And Mark Ruffalo, in a new interview, is just saying that, yeah, a lot of people are signing it. But as this headline in Variety says, Mark Ruffalo says some Hollywood stars are declining to sign the open letter against the Warner Brothers Paramount merger because they're afraid the studio will blacklist them. The article goes on and says something like this. The most revealing thing about that letter wasn't the people who signed it. It was the people who didn't. Not because they disagreed, but because they're afraid, Ruffalo and Stroller wrote. There are many reasons to block this idea or to block this deal, but we now believe the most fundamental one is what we encountered when asking artists to use their voices: fear, a deep, ugly, and pervasive fear of speaking out. Now, here's the thing. My first reaction to something like this normally is don't make excuses for why people aren't signing your letter. Maybe they just didn't want to sign it because they didn't want to sign it. And by the way, a lot of very big, high-profile key people are signing it, right? They are, but there's a lot who aren't. So just admit there are a lot of people who don't want to sign your petition, and don't make excuses saying, oh, they're just afraid. That's normally what would be my normal first reaction to that. But here's the thing. In this circumstance, he's not wrong, because we have already seen that Paramount is in the revenge and retribution game. They are. Here's an example. and this is key as we go back to this. We heard time and time again from artists when asked to sign this letter that they supported it, but they were afraid of retribution. Their fear is not unjustified, Ruffalo op-ed adds, citing 2 recent examples of blacklisting that occurred in retaliation, or in relation, but I could say retaliation, to the Paramount merger. Here's the key thing. I want you to follow this, and then we're going to talk about why this is so relevant. When the editorial director of The Ankler, one of the last independent trade magazines, many of you guys are familiar with The Ankler, we cite them all the time, who also founded the publication and serves as one of its columnists, was seen at CinemaCon carrying a bag of block the merger buttons, Paramount reportedly pulled its advertising in response. Ruffalo and Stoller note, one of us, Mr. Ruffalo, was suggested as a guest for a CNN discussion, as a guest on a CNN discussion of the merger, but a producer later said that the network had decided to pass on the segment and reportedly told the organizers behind the letter, it's a delicate subject for us at CNN, given that Warner Brothers Discovery is our parent company, and there are legal considerations around what we can and cannot cover or say while the merger is ongoing. I want to, Rob, go back to this Ankler situation, because I heard about this right after CinemaCon, and it made my toes like burn, like something's wrong here. For those who didn't hear about it, The Ankler is this big news outlet in the industry. They're an inside industry outlet, and they're very good. And one of the founders of the company was at CinemaCon, and there's a photo of him because there were a bunch of these, because, you know, Cinema United, their official stance is that they're against this merger. So the founder of The Ankler was there at CinemaCon, and a picture was taken of him holding a bag of the block the merger buttons. And Paramount's response is chilling. They wanted retribution. They wanted to punish. And so they immediately pulled all their advertising from that thing. And from what I'm told, I cannot personally verify this, but from what I'm told, and others have talked about this publicly, they even started telling some of their talent, you can't do interviews with Ankler. So Paramount is already in the leveraging fear and intimidation and saying, if you oppose us taking over Warner Brothers, we won't forget and it'll come back to get you. Look at what we're doing to Ankler. And Rob, the funny thing is that by doing that, they are validating everything their opponents are saying about them.
Yep.
That one of the risks of this whole thing is that you're going to have this much power, and if they want to decide to get retribution on you, and instead of alleviating those fears, instead of acting in such a way to say, no, that's not what's going to happen, they are literally doing the thing that everybody else is saying we should be afraid of. And here's the problem, Rob. This isn't like some open field. There are fewer and fewer studios now that one can work with. Literally, if you get blacklisted, whether it's officially blacklisted or not, from Paramount Warner Brothers, you literally just lost like 25 to 30% of your work options in this town, right? It's not like in our fields, like, oh, if you write for one website, oh, who cares? There's 1,000 other ones, go make another. And if none of them want to hire you, make your own. That's not the case here. And so Paramount's already been sending out the message that we are going to strong arm people. And be careful if you express your opinion that you don't think this is a merger that should happen, because we won't forget and we're going to get revenge. There's going to be retribution. And this is a really, really kind of scary story about what the future of the industry might be. Anyway, Rob, you saw this, you heard what Ruffalo's saying, you saw what happened with the Ankler. What's your takeaway from this?
Well, first of all, I mean, the Ankler is supposed to be a news outlet. And by taking a political and social stand against the merger, I think their impartiality as a journalistic outlet was compromised. So I want to say that at first. But on the other hand, the strong arm tactics that Paramount used, I mean, everybody's free to do what they want. We live in a free society. They have shown that they are not open to scrutiny from journalists, much less regulatory boards. I mean, are behind closed doors? Are they going to start threatening people? Is Paramount Warner Brothers going to become some kind of a Cosa Nostra entertainment family or something? I mean, look, it's disappointing to see that they chose to use those tactics rather than be above board and say, you know what, we understand there is great pressure from inside of the industry not to do this. But rather than show why it should be done and how they can benefit the entire industry, they choose what I would say is the coward's way out. Rather than show what you can do to benefit everybody, you have to quash dissent. Because look, we live in a free society where you should be open and transparent to the public. And if you're doing this kind of thing, you're a company that's asking Americans to consider the fact that you're getting Saudi Arabian money, you're getting money from offshore, and you're trying to convince them that you own certain news organizations and then you're not going to be subject to, say, influence from outside organizations that don't necessarily have America's best interests at heart. I mean, and again, we're all descending into the entire world is becoming, this authoritarian universe run by oligarchs. And I guess that's fine if that's what you want to have happen. But it's disappointing to me to see this because, look, I want to see David Ellison, backed by, of course, his father, Larry, who's a very powerful man, to succeed. I want to see Paramount. I want to see the mountain restored to luster. I want to see when I'm watching a movie and the beginning of that movie shows me the Paramount Mountain, my entire life, the Paramount Mountain has given me such joy, whether it was Chinatown, whether it was The Godfather, whether it was the Star Trek movies, whether it was Raiders of the Lost Ark. Whenever I saw whether it was just the fade-in Gulf Plus Western Company or the new Paramount logo where the stars encircle that mountain, or when it got even cooler, when you'd go over, the mountain would become the beginning of Raiders, or you'd go over the mountain and the world would flood or whatever happened. That was Universal Waterworld. But I loved that, and I would like to continue to believe in those things. But this kind of behavior doesn't instill me with joy.
What do you think about Ruffalo's main, premise here that he believes that a lot of people, he says he's actually talked to a lot of people that says, I'd love to sign it, but I can't because I'm afraid that now I'm cut out of any movies in Paramount or Warner Brothers. Like, do you think that he has talked a lot? Do you think that is kind of the prevailing fear amongst actors right now?
I do, because as you astutely pointed out, we're having less and less places that are making big budget movies. I mean, Mark Ruffalo is an Academy Award caliber actor whose body of work is exemplary. And, he really has to think about his bread and butter, but that's how authoritarianism works. You instill the fear of God into your population and you turn them into sheep that have to do what you say. And, we're seeing that increasingly happening in this country across many different platforms and many different areas of public life. And I mean, I have to say, I would encourage Mark Ruffalo not to say anything because of this behavior. It's already on display, and they've already made their intentions known. And I would say that the regulatory bodies, when they look into whether they or not this merger should move forward, this should be a concern. Because if this is the way they begin this merger before it's even finished, what are they going to do once it's happened? What are they going to do once Paramount and Warner Brothers become a behemoth that you can't, unlike Fox, which has been making, with the new 20th century, which has been making sequels. I mean, hopefully Warner Brothers is going to be they're going to be making 30 original movies. Everybody's going to want to work for them. It's just not a great look. And I think Mark Ruffalo was not really given much of a choice.
When you're going to be $80 billion in debt like they are, I don't know if they're going to be around for very long anyway, but We shall see. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? With already 4,000 signatures on that thing, and not that I give two squats about petitions, but Mark Ruffalo is saying there's a number of actors in Hollywood are saying they're just afraid to sign it because Paramount has already exhibited that they'll carry out retribution if you speak out against a business move like a merger. I don't know. This is kind of chilling stuff. Anyway, whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, one of the movies that we have been pining to get some information of for years now is Matt Reeves's The Batman 2. For years, we're like, where's the script? Where's the script? Where's the script? Finally, a script came out. It's like, hey, great, they got a script. Maybe they start going. So now we've kind of been hanging on every little thing about when they're going to get things moving. Well, according to Variety now, things are moving for the Batman 2, as Matt Reeves has released some first images about what we can expect from the movie, and specifically the Batmobile itself. As he put this out, we'll zoom in on here. He put out these. Now, remember, these are not images from the movie, although these types of shots probably will be in the movie, but these are specific camera tests for when they're going to shoot the movie. And he put a little subheading on his pictures that he put on his social media saying snow tires with the little Batman symbol. So we can see it's got an upgrade in the tires. We can also see like there's some kind of chase going on. We see police lights in the background and they're driving through the snow. Now, of course, because we live in the era that we live in, because we live in an era where when the first pictures of Thanos came out, people said, there's 3 scars around his face. That must mean Wolverine's in the next Avengers movie. Because there's snow, Rob, I've already seen a whole bunch of conversations online about people saying, it's definitely going to be Mr. Freeze. Why? Because his story's taking place in the winter? Anyway.
No, he's actually driving to see Max Shrek, Catwoman, and Danny DeVito's Penguin, who they're bringing back.
Got to get Arnold in there somehow, some way too. Again, listen, one of the best parts of that first Batman movie, and I love that Batman movie. I think it's a little long, but other than that, I loved it. And it's got a lot of great highlight moments. But one of my absolute favorite moments every time that I saw it in theater was that first engine turn on ignition of the Batmobile. And that rumble, I remember being in the theater and you could feel it in your chest. You could feel it rumbling through you. And then of course the chase scene happens, that awesome chase scene with Penguin and the way that whole thing worked out too. Anyway, the thing's amazing. And this is really, when you take a look at it, and even going back to the first one, this is the most unique of all the Batmobiles. Like maybe you can make an argument that the truly most unique one is the from the original Adam West Batman, which you wouldn't be wrong. That is probably the most unique one. But in the modern era, this is easily the most unique of all the Batmobile designs we've had. The way it was practically used as a character in that first movie. But maybe even more importantly right now, this is the first tangible thing that we've seen. They are active in pre-production right now. They're doing these camera tests and they've got the car on the road and they're doing these test shots. They are in active pre-production. You know, they're ramping up and getting ready to actually start shooting the film. This, Rob, it's that word I like to use, the tangibilization. Now It's real. Like for years now, the Batman 2 has been theoretical. Even when Matt Reeves held up that script that said the Batman 2, Matt Reeves, right? It's theoretical. We get to look at something like this and now it's there. We can actually reach out with our grubby little hands and touch it. And I'll tell you what, I don't know why, but just seeing these images this morning got me pretty damn excited because I just can't wait for this. So Rob, couple questions for you. First of all, what do you think about these images that we're seeing, the whole snow tires thing that he puts out there? And what are you looking forward to in this new movie? Where's your anticipation level? What are you hoping to see in the next one? Now that we've actually they're actually on locations doing these tests now, how are you feeling about the whole thing?
Well, I really loved Matt Reeves, the Batman, and as a child of DC Comics, I've read so many different iterations of the Batman. Even in the mid '80s, you had the Justice League, or called Justice League International version of the Batman, which was somewhat humorous. Then you could read Jim Apato's version of the Batman, which was, I think, even more humorous. But then you could read Frank Miller's hardcore Dark Knight or Batman Year One portrayal, and that was hardcore. I really like leaning into the first years of Batman and the idea that he's more of the Dark Knight detective. I loved all that, and that he's not, he's a little off. Batman is clearly, I mean, the reason he becomes the Batman is because he is so haunted by the death of his parents that he was never able to get over. And I think Robert Pattinson might have played that better than we'd ever seen anyone play Batman, in terms of that traumatized younger character that chose to put on a suit and invest his wealth in becoming a crime fighter. And then combined with that sort of David Fincher-esque tone, and the Riddler serial killer who had his own philosophy, and all of the Catwoman character, and the Penguin, and the way that the entire underworld of Gotham and how it was portrayed was very different. It was very grounded, even more so than Christopher Nolan's films. It dripped with atmosphere, and I loved it. So to know that he's going to do and expand it more, and I think he's going to make Gotham more of a character, I couldn't be more excited. And let's face it, that scene when the Batmobile came to life in the Batman, I mean, what the word ferocious comes to mind. That thing was almost like a jungle cat jumping on its prey. So it makes sense that you thought that was a cool car chase. Well, let's have it snow so there's ice on the road. I mean, I'm like, I'm in, dude. Count me in. I can't wait. I'm really excited. And John, I worked on Superman Returns, obviously,
right,
but Batman Begins came out in 2005 and Superman came out in 2006. We're going to be getting a Batman and Superman movie in the same year. And I don't know why, but that really makes me happy.
Yeah, and they're not going to be in the same universe, but we're going to get them in the same year. So let's jump on the same, like I'm seeing a lot of guys in the live chat talking about this too. So let's jump on this one too. We're kind of joking about, that Mr. Freeze, since it's snow, it must be Mr. Freeze. But where you're at now, because we've had a few months to think about this and sit on this. We remember, I think it was Matt Reeves saying the villain was going to be one that hasn't really been explored in a movie before. There was that sort of stuff. Where are your thoughts right now about who the villain of this thing's going to be? A lot of people think Hush would be a really good candidate because we've never really seen an iteration on the big screen of Hush, obviously. A lot of people suspecting maybe Court of Owls, which they have done in animated form and a little bit in the Harley Quinn series, which, by the way, their rendition of the Court of Owls was hilarious. Some people thinking a more grounded, less sci-fi angled Victor Freeze could actually maybe be a good option. Where are you thinking right now about who the villain could be of this film?
Well, the thing about the Batman's Rogues Gallery is, for the most part, even in Tim Burton's movies, I mean, basically Catwoman came back from the dead and Penguin was a mutant. So I do think in this particular universe, this Bat universe that Reeves is creating, the threats are much more down to earth. And I would imagine in Batman 1, we saw Catwoman, we saw Penguin, we saw different iterations of things. And the villain is truly the city and the systems of corruption, the systems of crime. So I would imagine that we're going to see that writ large, even bigger. So it wouldn't surprise me to see if you had a character like Hush and the Court of Owls working either in tandem or at odds, but it's the rot at Gotham's core that Batman is fighting against. So he's always fighting an overall corrupting force that inhabits almost every city, but Gotham being the worst. So I think it's going to be not necessarily a pantheon, but I think it's going to be multiple points of villainy that either are working together or working themselves against one another, like multiple crime families fighting a crime war, and Batman gets in the middle of it. But if you have the Court of Owls that's been entrenched in Gotham for quite some time, and then a few characters like a Hush, I could see that happening. I don't think you're going to get somebody like Mr. Freeze, because I think that's just out of the realm of what Matt Reeves is doing. Just kind of the way that Christopher Nolan, I mean, Christopher Nolan, Bane was borderline, but Bane was shown as being a terrorist. You know, they didn't really you never saw what was going to happen if his mask was torn off, but he was like, to crash a plane. And that, you know, that was an amazing sequence, but it was real. You know, there was no super secret weapons being used. I mean, it was another plane, and physics were used to destroy that CIA transport plane. And that was, I mean, that, look, say what you want about it. I think Dark Knight Rises is a mess, but that opening sequence is jaw-dropping. And
I couldn't understand a word that's said in that opening sequence, but yes, the opening sequence is great. I was actually at this special thing. Me and about 30 other guys were invited to watch the first 15 minutes of The Dark Knight Rises before the movie came out with Christopher Nolan. And I even remember at that, like a bunch of us standing around in a little huddled group after they showed us the footage going, could any of you understand a single thing that was said in that? And like, they did improve the mix. They improved the mix by the time the thing came out. So here's why it gets interesting to me, because we know Sebastian Stan is in the film, right? And we're pretty sure he's playing Harvey Dent, but I don't think Two-Face is the villain.
Well, there is the Dent. There's the whole family.
Yeah. So
we
got
Harvey Dent, the whole Dent. What would you call them? The
clan,
the succession of the clan. Yes.
But I don't think Two-Face is the villain. We know Colin Farrell is back as Oz, as Penguin, but we don't think his role is very big. So he's not the villain of the film. It's still, I'm still going to go to Court of Owls. I know some people are thinking, no, you save that to the third film, but you don't know that they're going to get a third film. And we're already past the first one. I think this would be a good opportunity to bring in Court of Owls, because you bring in Court of Owls now, and then you can use them again in a third film if you get them. That's the great thing about the Court of Owls. They're not a villain of the week sort of body. So, but again, Hush would be great. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of different ways that could go. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, this movie's finally actually got some momentum and movement happening, with Matt Reeves now putting out actual images of the photography they're doing on the car. What are you guys expecting from this movie? Were you excited to see that? Who do you think ultimately is going to be the villain in the Batman 2? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. And with that down, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Hey, just so you guys know, we are going to be doing an open mic about 3 hours from now at 4 p.m. LA time. That'll be about 7 p.m. New York time. So if you guys want to come on back and join us for an open mic in a few hours, we invite you to come by and join us. We'll look forward to seeing you then. But that will wrap up our show for today. For now, I want to, of course, thank writer, director, producer Robert Meyer Burnett. Great job as always, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you to all you guys for joining us all week. This wraps up another full week of the John Campea Show. I will probably do an open mic over the weekend as well. But again, we've got one coming in a few hours from now. We look forward to seeing you then. That'll do it for us for now, guys. My name's John Campea. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.